Hello, welcome back to the Hidden Gems screencast. Hidden Gems is where we show you capabilities of the product that you may or may not be aware of, but we think you will benefit from. So today is part 3 of a Build It short series, which shows some different ideas and techniques. In part 1, we showed you how to download and parse some data and create a series. Part 2, we upgraded the acquisition of that data to using an API, how to get an API key, how to examine and implement the API, which we did. Some ideas whether to choose XML or JSON for the data format. In today's part 3, we'll talk about some design decisions, how to keep things simple but flexible, how to keep things also simple and clear, and also we will recap. So we're going to talk about these topics here. So first, ideas on simplification. Let's talk about what we have. In the first one we downloaded and parsed the data. In the second one we created these two models. First, the Fred model. Let's take a look at what that gives us. It gives us, for the unemployment rate, tells us the frequency, ID, when the observations start and end, but no series. And then we also created a series which actually gives us the series of data right here. Okay, so first thing is, well, how can we simplify? We always want to keep things as simple, straightforward, and clear as possible. One of the things we could do, instead of having 2 classes, we could have 1. So in this one, we created a Fred model series. And basically it works. We combine some of the things from Fred model and Fred series in this. And we have basically the same information, only also a series. So we can simplify. Now, should you always try to combine classes together? No, not necessarily. If they have very clear and distinct boundaries and you'll be using those boundaries, then you may want to keep them as distinct classes. Here, that for our usage, that probably serves no purpose. So we can try combining it. If we don't like the results, we can revisit our decisions and do something differently, if that makes sense. So for this, we want to keep things simple and clear. So Fred model series for unrate, which is the unemployment rate. Let's see what that gives us. Just like before, monthly, the ID, the title, all that information is the same, and we get it basically the same. Our series, let's dive into that series for the unemployment rate. We're going to do some other things. First, we're going to say self for that symbol, and then we're going to ask the instance of this for the series, and it gives us the series. So let's look at the end result. We get the series. So let's look at something else we did. Notice I'm looking at the series. It tells me it's a daily series. Here is each date and the value. Nicely laid out from beginning to end. That just didn't happen by accident. What we did was went to the daily series class and created a printOn method, which is a standard method called by this inspector, and we made it specific. I took out the default that it gives us, which is the super printOn, and to the stream we say next put all, the name that gives us daily series, then dates with data due, the date and the datum. We say carriage return, next put all date print string, that gives us the date. Then we tab for some space and put the datum's close print string. So this is what we get, which is a clear, simple, organized way to see it. And you probably want to do this type of things for your models, especially where they're larger things like this, where it's far less obvious. Next, let's talk about lazy evaluation. Lazy evaluation is where we can delay doing some work so we don't waste time or space if we don't need to. So say we never end up calling for something, so we never waste the time and to calculate it and the space to store it if we only use it sometimes. So let's take a look at how we did this here. I'm going to get this model. I'm going to inspect it. Okay. I have this. Notice series is nil. Now, if I say self series, and let's debug that, self series, it says series, return the series, but if it's nil, load it first, then you'll return it. So let's step into this, a block value, self load series, and we basically load that series and store it in that instance variable. So what this does is, again, it's lazy evaluation. We don't waste the time or space unless it's needed. So we can run that self series, we can inspect this, and we get the series. And now, in fact, if we go back to this, we can see the series is filled in. Okay, this technique is called lazy evaluation. Sometimes it makes great sense. Sometimes if you're always going to use it and it makes sense to take the hit right now, you do it immediately. If you may not use it, or you say, I'll take the time and space when I need it, that makes more sense. You can do that then. So that is a design technique. Another design technique is about caching. So what I did for this series, so say we have information, let's just take a look at the model here a second. For example, the frequency of the data, it's monthly. But what if I get the series and now, hey, I've got the series and I really want to know if in this series, what the time frequency is of this series. Well, one thing I could do is add it as an instance variable. If it's always going to be used or frequently used, that is a design decision. Make things available that you're going to use and make them simple, clear, and obvious. But what if only once in a while I need access to that and I want to bring it along somehow with the series in a very easy way? Well, what I've done here is I created a cache instance variable. And when I created the series, I tucked the model into that. So let's go into that model. And here I have that model, the ID, the title, the frequency. So I've got that available in the series itself. And I've just cached it there. Okay? So it's a way of tucking something in where I may need it. And if you're using this all the time, say frequency, you may want to add that in as something as an instance variable in that series. But I can just as easily make it available in this cache and even put I could lazy evaluate filling in the cache for the model. And I can also have methods in the series or a more specific version of the series that goes and gets this data. So again, all design decisions, you want to keep things as simple and clear as possible and get access to what you need in a simple and clear manner. So those are our thoughts on simplifying things. We showed you the technique of using the printOn method. We showed you how to do lazy evaluation. we showed you the idea of creating a cache and using that to tuck in extra data that we might want, and those are all examples. So that is the final part of the Build It series, where we started again with downloading some data, parsing the data and returning it, upgrading to an API, and then some more design decisions of how we might improve it, and using more techniques, like using the printOn primarily for development, using the lazy evaluation, which is a technique that you'll want to use where it makes sense, technique of caching things to keep things near that you might use or you might want cached initially and moved to an instance variable proper later on. So I hope you've enjoyed this Build It 3-part series. If you have any questions, comments, or want any of the code, or want to discuss any of these techniques, please contact me. I'm Arden Thomas. You can reach me at athomas@cincom.com. Until next time, have a great time with Cincom Smalltalk. Thank you.